Hey guys, Rollout here with LEGO Transformers Dark of the Moon Sideswipe version 2. I'll admit right at the start, I'm not particularly proud of this design in hindsight. I think it's fundamentally flawed in a lot of ways that are irreparable unless I were to build something completely new. But it's one of my more popular creations, and therefore instructions have been heavily requested, so I wanted to rebuild it, and I tried my best to polish up and modern the design, but I still don't think it's up to my current standard. In robot mode, at least. As a vehicle, I think it's pretty solid. Here it is as sort of a stealth force weaponized vehicle, and it looks nothing like it did in the movie, but it's sort of just an excuse to store all of the weapons on the car, and it's ridiculous, it's dumb, but it's kind of cute and cartoony and fun, and I've always been a fan of that, so strangely I'm alright with this solution. The guns just peg onto the side, and the swords simply slot in via friction like that. And there is the standard concept Stingray. Again, I think he looks pretty solid like this. The front has been completely rebuilt. It makes a lot more sense and doesn't rely on strange techniques this time. I like the grille and the headlights as well. The wheels actually match, and the side is a lot more cohesive, I think, thanks to these new curved pieces. I replaced a lot of the parts with newer variants that the colors are more consistent, and I added the spoiler back here. It's still kind of a sorry excuse for a convertible, but at this scale, I think that's acceptable. Here it is, alongside Optimus Prime, and while he might be maybe a little bit too big for a car, I think they look alright size-wise. But aesthetically, I wish I could make them match a little bit more. Unfortunately, I can't implement these sort of wheels onto this design, and personally I think that's pretty important. So, I don't know how I feel about it. But if we compare him to something like a piece of Devastator, Scrapper here, you can see their aesthetic matches a little bit better, but of course, scale is just a nightmare. The transformation is actually a lot less finicky thanks to the portions of the build that I've reworked. First, we're going to swing these front wheels as far forward as possible. And then we're going to swing the back wheels forward as well, and they will sort of momentarily lock into these pieces. Same over here. Then, just to get this out of the way, we can swing the arms down from the bottom. Next, we're going to take the hood of the vehicle and bring that down, and this will create just enough clearance for this entire section to swing up. So make sure this is solidly connected as we do so, and bring the whole leg up and through. It'll sort of catch on this piece here, but as long as you're aware of it, shouldn't be too much of a problem. And we're going to bring it all the way around so that it sits on this piece here. We can do the same on this side. Again, it might catch here, but just kind of push through that and swing it all the way back. Now we can lift this portion up and bring the head through, and then start collapsing the body. The legs will come out. Personally, I like to rotate the windshield here. Bring the wheels down and out of the way so that when we bring the arms out, those are more or less hidden behind them. And then finally, I like to turn this piece on the head to give it a more angular look. And there is Sideswipe as a robot. Ignoring the inaccuracies of his wheels because I don't usually focus on proper wheel placement, my least favorite part about this robot are the prominent forward-facing anti-stud surfaces. I just think it looks ugly. But it's inevitable because of the way he transforms. Most of the flat surfaces are on the top of the vehicle, and almost all of that ends up on his back. So I had to settle for either an ugly-looking Stingray or an ugly-looking robot, and I chose the latter option. I guess you could say it represents how he goes from a sleek-looking car into the jumbled mess that original trilogy robots tended to be, but that doesn't match any of my other Transformers, and I prefer the cleaner aesthetic that Optimus and Devastator have, so this is a little disappointing. His backpack is pretty big, but he doesn't have too much of a problem standing because you can reposition these wheels and get him balanced in most positions. I don't really like the way it looks from behind, but I'm fairly satisfied with how it looks from the side and the front based on this visual trick caused by these clear sections here. I think it makes it really easy to ignore the dark section in the middle, and those gray portions end up looking a bit like his wings from the movie. If anything, I think I'm proud of that illusion alone. It's subtle, but I think it's kind of cool. Now, articulation-wise, I think he looks a little bit stiff, mostly because he has no side-to-side movement in his head, and that is a huge limitation. However, if we bring his swords into play, we can alleviate that a little bit. These are super simple, but they're a lot bigger than before, and that means that they're basically just gigantic stilts strapped to his arms. They attach with these jumper plates here, and this opens up a wide variety of poses you're able to pull off, because you can have him glide around on his wheel feet and lean on these blades to get those kind of dynamic drifts he's known for in Revenge of the Fallen and Dark of the Moon. And despite the lack of head articulation, I think that looks pretty cool. Of course, the nature of their connection means it's possible to swing these swords out of the way, and I've also built his sidearms from the third movie. He's got these cool-looking double-barreled pistols, and those attached to his hands just like this. They might be a little bit oversized, but I like the way they turned out. Now, I find it a little bit tricky to pose him naturally with these based on his aforementioned limitations, but it's not impossible. For comparisons, here he is alongside Optimus Prime, and like I said, I think there's a little bit of a stylistic disconnect here, but size-wise, they look alright. If not completely inaccurate, but what can you do? And then here he is next to an arm of Devastator. So take that as you will. Sideswipe is my absolute favorite movie robot design, and that's probably why I hold this guy to such a high standard. At the end of the day, I wish I could say, damn, he's good. But I think he falls a little bit short. So, until next time, this has been Rollout, signing off.